Welcome to the immersive reading of the new edition of the Underground Railroad, Next Stop, Toronto, brought to you by Dundurn Press and freeconference.com. We hope you enjoy your experience as you listen to the passage Black Torontonians in the Civil War, narrated by Allison Isaac.
Many African Canadians fought in the Union Army during the American Civil War. The conflict arose over the issue of states' rights, specifically the right of each territory or state to choose between being a slave state or a free state. The election of President Abraham Lincoln, who opposed expansion of slavery into new territories and took office on March 4, 1861, brought matters to a head. When the slave states of the American South began to separate from the Union over this issue, the Civil War broke out in April 1861. Toronto has always had close ties to the United States. As an important port on the Great Lakes, the commercial enterprises of the city regularly did business with American cities like Buffalo and Rochester. Railways linked Toronto with Chicago and Detroit, and with Upper New York State. Companies that did business in both countries maintain offices in both Toronto and U.S. cities. Canadian newspapers such as The Globe regularly reported on American events. Toronto was also a hotbed of anti-slavery activism, involving both black and white abolitionists for decades before the Civil War. Indeed, the city played a pivotal role between British and American anti-slavery interests. Abolitionists in Canada worked with both U.S. and British anti-slavery forces toward bringing an end to the institution of slavery in the American South. American-born black people who migrated to Toronto remained committed to abolishing slavery in the United States, as well as to helping make conditions better for black Americans living in the northern states. They often maintained ties with family, friends, and associates south of the border. Many who fled Southern slavery left behind parents, dearly loved husbands or wives, and even children, as Deborah and Perry Brown had been forced to do. Free African Americans who had moved from cities like Philadelphia, New York, and Cincinnati in search of better opportunities for their families stayed in touch with relatives and business partners in the United States. Foremost in everyone's mind in the 1850s was the threat of war between the United States. The North and South could not agree whether slavery should be allowed in the newly forming states of the western frontier. As the conflict continued, after war was formally declared, it became apparent that if the Union Army of the North defeated the Confederate Army of the South, slavery in the United States would end. Black Canadians made significant contribution to the war effort, and so helped free more than 4 million enslaved African Americans. Many families living in Toronto sent their sons to fight and die so that the institution of slavery would forever be destroyed in North America. On January 1, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which promised freedom for those enslaved in the states of the Confederacy, but it did not mention states that had remained in the Union, such as Kentucky and Maryland, even though slavery was legal and common in both. Toronto's African Canadian churches held services for men going to fight on the Union side in the Civil War. After 2 years of bloody fighting, President Lincoln had finally decided to enlist the thousands of African Americans who volunteered for the Union Army. African Canadians also flocked to enlist in Michigan's 102nd Colored Troops, the 5th Massachusetts Colored Cavalry, the 5th Massachusetts Colored Infantry, and other units, while others joined the American Navy as well. Mary Ann Shadd Cary, an important abolitionist and newspaper publisher who once lived in Toronto, moved from Chatham, Canada West, to Detroit to become a rare female recruiting officer for the Union Army. Harriet Tubman also recruited black men for the Union Army.
We hope you enjoyed the passage Black Torontonians in the Civil War. To learn more or to purchase a copy of the Underground Railroad, Next Stop, Toronto, visit Dundurn.com.